Buckle up, Buttercup. Live from Gloucester, Massachusetts. Podcasting around the world. You're listening to the Gloucester Cast Podcast, a production of Joey Shimataro and Good Morning Gloucester Media. Kick back, relax, and enjoy the show with your host, Joey Shimataro, and his crew of merry castaways. No piping plovers will be intentionally harmed in the production of this podcast.
And we're live with Matt Lundberg. We're going to talk about Community Preservation Act funding, where it's kind of a timely thing, isn't it, Matt?
It sure is, Joey. Thanks for having me on.
All right. And I'd also like to thank Pat Dalpiez, who's running the back end of this right now. So can you give us a little background on what the Community Preservation Act is for people that are not aware?
You bet. So, traditionally in cities and towns, anywhere in the United States, but certainly in Massachusetts as well, our tax money goes to things we really need primarily, making the roads good, the schools, all that kind of stuff. There are community valuable pieces of work that tend to get kind of on the second tier of funding, historic preservation, creating open space and recreation facilities. Affordable housing is always struggling for money. So 22 years ago, the state passed a law called the Community Preservation Act. And they created a trust fund that is funded through a portion of the fees that are collected every time there's a real estate transaction. So the registry of deeds, there's always a small amount that goes, they started taking some of that and putting it into a fund. Then they share that fund every year with any cities or towns in the Commonwealth that have voted to adopt the Community Preservation Act in their town. Gloucester voted to do that in 2010, I believe. And when you do join it as a city or town, you decide how much money you're going to raise locally for it. And then the state will match your funds from this trust fund that the state is building. Gloucester, it comes off of real estate taxes. Gloucester adopted a 1% surcharge from that. So when you look at your real estate tax bill, there's a small amount that goes to the CPA every year.
Oh, so wait.
Yeah.
It's real estate taxes, not real estate transactions.
That's correct. In the city, it's off your real estate tax bill.
Okay.
So that's the city gets, we collect money every year. And then we report to the state, how much money did we collect for the CPA? And the state says, great, we're going to match that to whatever percentage is your share from the state fund. The state fund comes from transactions. Well,
it's kind of crazy to let that money slip away when it's matched, right?
That's right. In the early days, the match was 100% because, towns were just adopting it. And there's a lot of money from the registry of deeds transactions. Today, 187 cities and towns across the state have adopted the CPA. That's over 50%. And so the match is usually smaller. This year was a pretty good match because there was a lot of real estate transactions last year.
With big numbers.
Yeah, so the state fund was pretty big. So from the city of Gloucester raised $700,000, I think $750,000 or so locally. The state match was over $330,000. So it was about a 35-40% match, which was pretty good. That's high in the last few years. So as a result, we got over $1 million available to spend on projects. Now, when you adopt the CPA, your city has to create a committee that oversees how its funds are dispersed. So that's what we do. We've got a city committee called the Community Preservation Committee, the CPC. There's 9 people on it, 4 at-large members, and then 1 member each from the Conservation Commission, the Historic Commission, the Housing Commission, and Open Space and Recreation. So every year, we encourage groups within the city to come forward with proposals to use the money. And we have a 2-round review of those. The first round is just to make sure it's eligible. So to be eligible, it has to be for historic preservation, open space preservation, affordable housing, or recreation facilities. And there's more detail that goes around it than just those basic names. Historic preservation is a good example. We funded some work both at the Annisquam Village Church and the UU Church on Middle Street, but the work we funded has to be very specifically designated not to be religious, because you can't use state funds or city funds to fund religious organizations. But UU Church is a pretty historic place, and we've helped them with a number of projects on rehabilitating a lot of that work in that building. So it's timely right now because we have announced that our 2022 timeline is open. We're accepting applications for projects. And the first pass is very simple. It's a 1-page website form. It says, what's your project? How much are you asking for? Do you have other sources of funds? And similar questions like that. That has to be in by March 8th. And then the committee will meet and review all those and make sure that they are eligible. And if they're not, it could be a misunderstanding of how the regulation works. So if it's not, we'll go back to the applicant and say, do you want to change anything up on it? And then 2 months after that, in May, full applications are due. And the full applications are pretty expensive. People submit photographs, testimonials, support from the community. If it's a big one, one that's coming up that we think will come through this year is some restoration of the path in Stage 4 Park, where the boulevard path ends and then you go up that pretty decimated piece of old asphalt. Yeah. We're working on a project to fix that up and connect that up to the visitor center. That kind of project needs a full proposal with estimates from contractors and all that. And then we review those applications through the summer. We talk with the applicants and we make decisions in September. And then it wends its way through the mayor and the city council for final approval. And then the projects get going.
Now, is there a certain minimum dollar amount? I mean, can it be as simple as a $1,000 grant?
It can. Yeah, there's no reason why it can't. And typically projects have a lot of other funding. The CPA share might be anywhere from 25% to 50%. But once in a while, we'll fund an entire one. And I bring it up because the smallest project we had last year was a proposal from the city's cemeteries commission to restore a bunch of really old headstones that were found in the First Parish Cemetery that were pretty incredible. They have no money. They don't have any fundraising course of their own. And they asked for $9,800, which we approved without thinking very hard about it. It's a really cool project and well worth doing.
Would you like to run down some of the 2021 projects?
Yeah, sure. There were 9 this year. And it's interesting because I mentioned those 4 categories of projects. In some towns or cities, they really focus on open space preservation. And in other ones, it's different ones of the categories. Gloucester's projects tend to skew towards historic preservation. And it's because it's a pretty special place and there's a lot of historic stuff around here. And particularly recently because we've got the 400th coming up. And so I think everybody's paying a lot of attention to making sure things are in good shape. Last year, we funded 9. One was at the Saunders House, the old original part of the Sawyer Free Library. There's some amazing murals on the way in that building and through the stairs that needed restoration, and some other architectural work that needs to be fixed up in there. So we funded that. We funded a second project with Ocean Alliance on the paint factory. They are steadily restoring pieces of that, and they continue to build a nice combination of private funding and public funding. And this next round is a really important one because it should open the door for a lot of state and possibly federal money to keep that work going. One of my favorites from last year is we're going to be helping the Schooner Adventure folks to fix the keel, the rudder rather, when they pull the boat out this year. They already know the rudder needs a lot of rebuilding. So that's a small one. It's not a lot of money, but it's pretty important to the adventure. And so that's one. We're funding some. I mentioned the cemetery one. A couple of the other ones we did was we did fund some work at the Annisquam Village Church to make their entryway more handicap accessible, which it really wasn't very well previously. The stone arches at the Hammond Castle Museum are falling apart, and they requested some money, which we granted, to restore those and put them back into structurally sound form. Let's see. Gloucester 400. They've got a great project going on document preservation and restoration, which is painstaking, but we can help with that too. So we funded part of their project. I mentioned the UU Church. The Gloucester Meeting House Foundation runs the non-religious parts of that. They've got some ongoing work now. We previously funded work on the steeple. This work is on the front facade of the building to restore that to the way it was originally, and do some work on the green, which is getting pretty beat up over the last few years. And the last one is the only non-historic project we had last year, which is to improve the parking facility out at Ravenswood Park. If you ever go up in Ravenswood, the parking area is kind of small. There's very little handicapped space up there. They're going to expand that quite. I don't know if you go up there, but I'd say more often than not, I'm parked on the side of the road up there and not in the parking lot because there's no space in the parking lot.
Wow.
So that'll get done this year too.
Now, the question I have is: do people sometimes is it 9-person board? Is that what it is? Sometimes you guys go out and seek things that you think are worthy, or is it always just from the pool of applicants?
Well, it's always from the pool of applicants, but what we do try to do, and that's what we're doing right now, which is why it's great to be on with you, is to make sure people are aware of what it is and to encourage applications. I mean, if you've got a project that you're struggling for funding, now's the time to put it in, because it's tough to get funding for these kind of projects. So it's really, I mean, we don't come up with the projects, although if there's somebody in the committee who has an idea, hypothetically, I happen to live downtown. I live right near the Legion. I'd love to see the Legion get fixed up sometime. So I might, call the people at Legion and say, we got a lot of money for historic preservation. You guys, if you could organize a project, we're one source for you to work with. But
does that money go? Does that money go in and does it reset every year, or is it just billed if you don't use it all?
Yeah, we have to reserve of those 4 categories: open space, historic, housing, and recreation. The first 3. We have to reserve at least 10% of whatever we have every year for those 3. If we don't, so let's say we had $1 million, 10% is $100,000. If we don't grant $100,000 to historic projects, we've got to put that away and save it for the next year, or the next year, or the next year. But we don't have to spend it. If we don't have, projects that fit the bill, then we just keep it in the fund and it's available for usage later.
It doesn't go away, but you don't get the use of the match.
No, you do get the match. Every year, the state sends us the money and it goes into the city's bank.
So no matter if you use it or not, that whatever you've raised through it, that money does go and it doesn't go away.
That's correct. That's correct.
Wow.
Yep. And some communities do bank that a lot. If you don't have any valid projects, you just bank it and bank it and bank it, because who knows, you might need to do something big at some point, like acquire some open space. Or the biggest project that we funded in Gloucester is City Hall restoration, which CPA money's been used to do that since 2011 or 12, I think. And that that's a big building that always needs some work.
It's a big old building, yeah. Big old drafty building.
Right.
Steeples, yeah. No, I've been inside the going up into the towers there, and you see the beams that they put in to stabilize everything. That must have been your work, and thank goodness they did it. It's such a beautiful building.
Yeah. So we're excited. It's a good group we've got. It's a good cross section of folks from Gloucester. And looking at the projects is always gratifying for us, because the people who are trying to do these things really feel strongly about what they're doing. We have a meeting on March 1st, which is a public hearing where we'll basically go through once a year. We present what the CPA is, like we just did here, what Gloucester's implementation is, and ask the community if anybody's got any requests, suggestions, questions that would modify our plan, and also to make sure that everybody knows that the deadline's coming up to get your projects in.
Yeah, no, I know. So I guess the point is, if you have an idea, a valid idea, even if you don't have it completely fleshed out, like you said, you can still put put your idea in, and then there's time to review it and
Right.
maybe make some modifications. Don't think, oh shit, it's I don't have time. You can put that idea forth. The board will review it, and if they think there's merit, maybe they say, well, maybe that wasn't the right way, but you can reword it and
exactly right. Exactly. Yeah. You got to start somewhere, and it's a learning process. If you've never worked with the CPA, or if you haven't done a lot of fundraising development for nonprofit things, we can help you figure that stuff out. So yeah, it's we love to hear from people.
Fantastic. So the website, we'll put the link back up. Let me just go find that link right there. Here's the link. So there's the link to, there's all the information that you're going to need.
Yep.
And is there anything else that you'd like to add in closing?
No, I guess the only thing is I'm looking forward to some warmer weather. I got to get out of the Y, Joe. You got to start running outside again.
Oh, you're one of those guys. You're one of those outdoor running guys.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Are you kidding me? There's nothing better than running around here. It's never boring.
No, it's it's funny. I live, and on my way to work, I go by the back shore and with my daughters to bring them to school, and they're just blown away. And it's we always say, you could make this drive 365 days, and it's a different scene every day between what color the sky is, how rough the ocean or not rough, the clouds, no clouds, weather. It's to be a runner around here really is amazing.
Yeah.
Then there's Pauline Bresnahan saying hi. So,
Pauline,
that's nice.
classmate, class of '74, Joey.
You guys are the same age?
Yep.
Really? Oh my goodness, 74. Wow, you guys don't. You both aged well. You definitely both aged well. All right. Well, thank you so much for coming on. We appreciate it. Hopefully, people will respond and we'll have really good uses. I know with the Gloucester 400 coming up, that's a big one. There's a lot. That committee has what a tremendous task. I would hate to be tasked with that.
Yeah.
Because there's a big expectation. And hopefully there's enough Indians to carry out the chief's wishes.
Yeah, I think we'll do just fine. Joey, thanks a million.
Have a great day.
You too. See ya.
Little town with big news. 411, come get the scoop. Wake up with Joe and the rest of his crew. It's good morning, Gloucester, to you. Oh, it's good morning, Gloucester, to you. I say good morning, Gloucester, to you. Good morning, Gloucester, from over the bridge.